GameSpot presents the Hotspot. It is Wednesday, January 18th. I am Tom Magrino. We are one of the few websites online today. How about that? You guys happy about that?
Go
Tyler Weingart.
GameSpot.
Yeah, the site
You're
isn't
happy
all.
that we're online?
Yes,
That's
yes.
good.
Online is good.
Kevin Van Ord.
I feel like there's nothing I could possibly say to that question that will make me look good to any given person at any given time. So I'm just going to say I'm here because it's my job to come to work and provide content to the great site owned by CBS known as GameSpot.com.
Maxwell McGee.
I'm happy to be online, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't
way
actually...
to make me look like a dumbass now.
I had time to plan that out. I was like, what am I going to say? I need something punchy and witty.
So,
I guess it wasn't really
internet,
witty.
Feel free to come to GameSpot.com and do your research papers here.
Work on your research paper.
Do your research papers.
That's funny.
Don't go to the library.
For anybody
else? Or doesn't own. We're owned by CBS, obviously, and CBS is one of the few SOPA supporters for the time being. But we will get to that later.
Awkward.
Also, what we'll get to later is we have Yoshinori Ono coming into the studio. He will be at the end of the show. You may know him from, I don't know, Street Fighter. That's a pretty good game. But until we get to that, Tyler Weingart, Maxwell McGee, we were at CES last week.
We sure were.
We saw some consumer electronics.
Yeah, what was some cool consumer electronics that you saw?
I think he was talking to you, Tyler.
Was he now?
You kind of run away from the
unaware.
show. We kept coming back to seeing new stuff that Razer, the typical manufacturer of like computer-related mice and keyboards and gaming controllers and things like that. I think they make some headsets as well.
I think I have a sad, forgotten pile of Razer keyboards sitting in the back of a closet somewhere.
Poor
weird.
Razer.
The Razer, like every Razer product I own is awesome except for the keyboards.
So let's go ahead and talk about the Fiona, the tablet from Razer. It was CNET's tech of the show. Who saw that?
Sean and I saw that,
McKinnon
and that was some pretty crazy cool technology because it was originally addressed to us as a gaming tablet, and they kind of teased it before the show of like the form factor of PC gaming has changed. We didn't really know what that was going to mean because they showed off as a teaser concept last year this kind of clamshell, kind of sort of laptop, like pocket laptop kind of thing with like super, just a handful of keys that you needed to control games and a tiny little screen that you could make it be super portable.
And so like, this is dumb. Let's try again.
Yeah, maybe we thought they were going to extrapolate on that, and they didn't really. Rather, what they did is, people were calling it a tablet, but more what it was this. Okay, it was a tablet. Who said?
I mean, you can't blame them because it's a tablet, and then it's got like these two handles on either side, so it kind of looks like one of those race car steering wheel type thing.
Yeah, take your typical like iPad or a 16:9 form factor tablet, make it be like 2 inches thick, and then take two PlayStation Move controllers and kind of glue it to the side with thumbsticks on top of them. So it's kind of complicated. It's better to think of it as like...
That's actually a very accurate description. That is pretty much exactly what it looked like.
Yeah, but the way to think of it is more of a PC gaming handheld.
Okay.
I mean, yes, it does have a touchscreen, which is pretty much one of the other identifiers of it being a tablet. But I get the sense it's more supposed to be, here's a handheld for PC gaming. It runs the version we saw, which the CEO of Razer, Min Liang Tan.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Sounds good.
Did you practice that
Pretty
beforehand?
Much correct.
He said, we have this running now. We're really happy with it. The hardware's not final. We're going to try and get it out by the end of the year, but some changes could still be made to it. But at the time we saw it, it was running Steam. And so you were just launching your games right out of Steam.
What games was it launching? Do you know? Did you see any?
We saw in our own hands. We saw Warhammer 40K, Space Marine, and Terraria.
Okay.
Look like
I can see Terraria. Warhammer seems like it's kind of beefy for a tablet, doesn't it?
It was running great on it.
Weird.
It was running really smoothly on it.
Did they say like, oh, you'll be able to run X game on this, or like this will run Battlefield 3, or this will run?
They were saying
World of
it would
Warcraft
be
or
able to run any PC game on the market today.
Okay, so Crisis 2.
Presumably.
Unless Razer is lying.
Since that is a game on the market today, we'll have to go with that.
Yeah, that was their quote on it. I mean, they had a couple other games that we saw on that presumably could have been launched from, but we didn't actually try out. They're having troubles with some of their internet connection.
Okay.
So we could only get into a couple of games.
Okay.
I think we also saw Assassin's Creed Revelations on there. I also saw Minecraft that was looking ready to run. If you look on the video that we put up of it, and you freeze frame on when he's just on the interface, on the Steam interface, you'll be able to see what other games.
Did they say what operating system it's on? Is it Windows, Android?
Right now is running on I presume Windows 7.
Okay.
They're aiming for it to be running Windows 8 when it comes out, because Windows 8 will be out when it comes out.
That would be...
And because of the Windows 8 Metro interface, that's a much more sensible user interface and for a tablet kind of computer.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, because it wouldn't be Windows Phone. It would be the actual Windows operating system.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So you could just load up anything you wanted on.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. So it will be running Windows 8, which I don't have a huge amount of knowledge of yet, but a big part of the software direction for that OS is to be for tablets.
Oh God, we saw Windows 8 at Microsoft's keynote address. Like, I don't even know if we can call that a keynote address. It's like Microsoft came to CES and they had already said, we're not going to come back this year, and so their presence this year was basically, fuck it, whatever.
It was kind of like,
we're just going to show off Windows 8, which we introduced last year, and we're also going to show our new Metro for Windows Phone, and a little bit of Xbox Live.
But most of that stuff was all old.
And it was all old, yeah. I mean, so Ryan Seacrest was new.
Yeah, he's new.
He
I don't believe he's going to be part of the feature set of Windows 8.
But he's new?
Be.
Like, what's he been? What's been done to him to kind of like buff
a
him
lot
up
of
to
Botox mostly, but no, he was just in this fireside chat with Steve Ballmer, their CEO. It was supposed to be very like congenial and cordial, and they're just like, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" Rah, rah, rah. But it just came off super forced.
I know one of the things that I loved was that I could tell Ryan Seacrest was doing this. He would say every time Ballmer would finish talking about something, Ryan Seacrest would say, "Oh, well, that's cool," and then he would transition into the next topic.
It's
and
like,
that phrase,
that.
"That's cool," that's like my fallback thing for when I'm in an interview and I'm talking to somebody and I don't really know what they're talking about, and I just need to get to the next. Oh yeah, that's cool. Let's talk about something. I was like, I see what you're doing, Ryan.
That's nice.
That's just super what you're doing.
Microsoft. It's weird because it's like Razer had the biggest thing at this show. Microsoft, Sony, they were basically non-existent. I think the only announcement that Microsoft made was sales numbers, and it seems like there was some, the Kinect PC was coming February 1st, which it sounds like I did an interview with some marketing, the head of marketing and PR, so obviously he said nothing, but what he kind of did say was that PC Kinect is it's not for gamers, essentially. It's for the people who are making like robots that or surgeons who are trying to scalpel to death somebody. But it's not for gamers, and that's not the intent of it. And that's why it costs $250 instead of $150 like the console version. And then, I mean, that was basically, as good as Sony, who did not... What did they announce? I'm trying to think. It had
4K, I guess?
They had Netflix for Vita. That was their big announcement.
In case you didn't have... Connect, or if you didn't, in case you didn't have Netflix running on,
if you didn't have it on your 3DS and your Wii and your PlayStation
and your phone
and your set-top box
and your Xbox and your PlayStation 3 and your Wii,
and it wasn't already built into your television because we're in the future,
right? Your Blu-ray TV or box, yeah. So that really would have been only would have been an announcement had it not been included. But other than that, they showed off this 4K technology that's for right now. It's it's in projectors, and they're working on getting it into TV. And basically, what I got from that was it's like HD 4x4 or something.
They had a very helpful visual aid where they had like a little box for standard def, and then they had a slightly bigger box for high def, and then a giant yellow box for 4K.
They showed off its superiority in bar graph form, which was helpful, I guess.
I guess your eyes just like split open and start to bleed when they see the magic. Like,
because it's like HD is crisp,
Yeah.
You're in HD. If you're watching, click on the box below this video, and you can get to HD. That's HD, pretty good. You can definitely see my giant pores and whatnot. But this is supposed to be 4 times HD. I'm just wondering, like, when can the human eye not discern the crispness?
I don't know. How large can your pores get?
I don't know. How large can my pores get?
Well, apparently they can get even bigger because, Sony didn't have the highest resolution monitors in town at CES because I didn't actually get to see it in person, but I understand Sharp had an 8K display.
Oh, an 8K?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which,
For God.
it was just like, how high resolution your iPhone is with its Retina display?
Yeah.
Just take that and just extrapolate it out to, I think it was like a 72-inch screen.
Mm-hmm.
There's more fascinating details about that than actual technology because that technology, as far as home use, is a long ways off. Because right now there is one camera in the world that can film 8K HD content.
Are you saying there's like one brand of camera, or there's like literally
there's
the one camera? Don't break it.
Well, it's owned by NHK in Japan, and if they feel like lending it out to good old CBS, maybe we can use it at E3. We'll ask them.
In 8K.
Mom, can I borrow the camera this weekend? I promise nothing will happen to it.
Although I will say, like, Sony showed off this Bloggy Live camera that it seems like would be good for you guys with the whole live cam backpack thing.
I didn't get to see a lot of details on this. You were at the Sony press briefing.
Yeah, I was at the Sony press briefing, and essentially what it looked like was, a super tiny portable camera that you could just take around. It looked like a flip cam, essentially. And you could record live video with it and then live stream, basically, with it. Which seemed pretty cool. There was a lot of camera technology that was like, okay, you take this picture and immediately it's online. And that seems pretty smart to me because I have like a ton of pictures on my camera that I can't pull them off because it takes so much. There's too many steps.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of camera manufacturers, particularly the mirrorless camera or the mirrorless large large sensor cameras like the Sony Nex and the Panasonic Lumix cameras are really trying to close the gap with where they've been losing out against smartphones because smartphones, not great cameras, but they already have all this network infrastructure. So you can take those pictures and immediately post them to Facebook or Twitter or whoever you want to share them with.
Yeah, and I think
as a photographer on my own right, I see the appeal of that. While if I'm taking pictures, with my SLR, I know that before I still have to pull those pictures off the card and I need to process them and then I need to upload them and. That immediacy of being able to snap a picture and immediately share it is a big deal. And it seems like a lot of camera manufacturers are trying to close that gap.
And plus on the smartphones, it's like, I think the Nokia something or other 900 had like a 16 megapixel camera, which sounds pretty good to me. I don't know much about cameras. But...
Well, this is the lie that megapixels like to tell people because you can cram more megapixels onto a sensor, but unless you're actually improving the quality of the sensor and the lens, you aren't improving the quality of the image. Okay. It's kind of like it's like taking a PC game and without updating the quality of the textures or the polygons and the models, just upping the render resolution. Yes, you're getting more pixels, but they don't necessarily look better.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure whether Microsoft or Nokia said that, they'd improved all that other stuff that you just said as well, but they definitely said that the megapixels had increased.
Yeah, it's one of those things that looks good when they're trying to sell the phone, but it's one of those things that doesn't really matter in the long run, other than, it just means your image files are going to take up more space on what storage you have on the device.
Yeah. So as far as craziest, weirdest tech that you guys saw, I'm going to go. Can I start?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Everyone and their mother was all about submerging iPhones in aquarium tanks. That was like the thing of CES.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird. There's a lot of protect your hardware from water.
Yeah, and it wasn't just like a superficial, like wrap it in a plastic bag and then dunk it. It was more just like, hey, this is your iPhone. Oh, now it's in an aquarium, which you do all the time. But it's fine. It's fine. It's running fine.
I at least
are
have
you passing judgment.
No, go ahead.
I mean, seriously, because we all know that's how I got rid of my last phone and went to a Windows phone
last phone too.
because I was looking at my phone while standing at the urinal, and then I dropped my phone in the urinal.
Urinated all
it's
over
not
it.
even bad enough that I dropped it in the urinal. I dropped it in the urinal I was using.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I ruined my iPhone that way. It was like I had it on the desk and I was working and I looked at it and I was like putting it over on a shelf next to me, and like I just hit the corner of it with the end of it, and I dropped it, and like my water cup was right below it, and it just like
that's bad karma.
It was actually quite impressive if I had intended to do it, but I did not, and it was like. So.
I just like to think of all these things as what we have in the modern day that would have been if we were 20 or 30 years ago accidentally dropping the toaster into the bathtub with us.
Right.
Because people do that on
I
accident,
killed
right?
My third child that way. It was really.
I mean,
really
that is
inconvenient.
technically an accident, right?
Technically.
Okay.
I think so. Unless it's intentional. But intent is hard to prove. So
Most intents are accidental.
unless
Keep your
it's
eyes
not.
open on the news for like a Mr. Tyler Weingartner and some kind
And
of
his
weird accident with a
Dead
toaster.
Toaster baby.
His dead toaster
No.
baby.
So anyway, what did you see, Tyler? What was your big one?
I mean, again, I got to see the Project Fiona, the
Right.
gaming tablet handheld thing. That was really impressive. In terms of sheer ridiculousness, we
Right.
also saw the Razer Blade laptop,
Okay.
which I feel like we saw in kind of a concept form last year. I got to see it only briefly, but it's this super high end gaming tablet that has this. In addition to all the normal stuff you'd expect on a high end gaming laptop, played lots of high end games and has lots of big PC Ivy Bridge guts to run modern games. It also has these 10 macro buttons that are programmable and will actually they're little buttons with little screens. They'll automatically get reprogrammed to if you're playing Battlefield 3. They can be your hotkeys for various weapon changes or gear loadout changes, and those will actually change with what class you're playing. If you're playing the Old Republic, they'll change to be here's your spells or Jedi powers or whatever kind of buttons you need for those. And then there's also this touchpad right below those that is also a screen. So from there you can either get context sensitive stuff for the game you're playing, or you can actually get out of your game on that screen and like check your email on the touchpad,
Or you can load up your game facts FAQ to figure out where you
right.
need to go.
or
and
you
everything.
can load up YouTube,
GameFAQs.com.
A fine-
head there right now.
Fine website.
or you
Fine
can
CBS
load up
Fine
YouTube and get
CBS.
game hints from
Right.
Yep.
GameSpot.com. All kinds of good stuff that you can do with this thing. That was really cool.
Maxwell?
Okay, so I saw this immersive motion accessory system.
Okay.
There's a lot of motion things on the show floor, but this one, at first I thought it was pretty neat, but then the guy, his pitch, it kind of got off the rails towards the end. So basically what it is, it's these 3 sensors. You put 2 of them on your wrist, and then you stick one on your forehead.
Okay.
And what you do,
Is that
yeah,
where
that well, no,
the wheels
that I
come
was
off?
on board with that. I was like, okay, you know what? You put one on your head, fine, whatever. I'm in my home. I'll
Right.
stick
More sensors and putting them all over
Just
the rest
all
of your
over your
body. You were
body.
like,
just
there.
sensors. So he had all these sensors on. He's like, okay. So then what you do is you map out motions
Okay.
and have those translate into like commands or keystrokes within the game. So he had like this tech demo-y Wizards game loaded up, and he's like, okay, so when the guy does this, it like pushes
You
over
just
some.
gave our listeners
High
our viewers
five.
an almost seizure. Go ahead.
It like pushes over some trees, and when he does this, it like calls down a menu where you can pick out items and stuff, and you can like turn your head and kind of look around. That's all well and good. But then he started talking about, we want to develop this Wizards game and have it work in mobile devices as well. I was like, okay. So if you have the Wizards game installed and you're wearing the sensors, you don't necessarily have to be looking at the game or be in the game to do things that affect what's happening in the game. Okay, whatever. So this is where it kind of got crazy. It's like,
oh, that's cool.
so if you're at the mall and you're walking around and you have the sensors on and you see somebody else with the sensors on, your phones will vibrate to let you know that you two are in range of each other, and you can go up and start having a wizard battle.
Okay. with your
sensors,
and
you're going like this, and you're in the mall.
Okay.
What? No, why? Who's gonna be walking around with sensors, and then there's another guy with sensors, and you guys just run up and start like having a wizard battle?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, you have the wizard battle. You don't need to check your phone, and it'll track everything that happens. And then you get done, you leave or whatever, and you pull your phone. And you're like, oh, I won the wizard battle. That's cool.
Cool.
Does it have to be a wizard battle? I mean, can you do other kinds of?
I'm sure as the technology grows and develops, it can accommodate all sorts of battles.
Can we
so
have
can you
like
map your
like
own
dance competition?
Can you map your own motions?
Yeah, that was the whole thing. He
Okay.
was like, I was
So
asking.
that's just a ticket for lewd. All sorts of lewd.
Pretty much, yeah. You can just have all sorts of rude. I'm not sure if it does
Rude,
like
lewd.
finger digits. I think they have to be pretty exaggerated, like body gestures.
Okay, well, there are body
Even better.
gestures that can be fairly exaggerated.
But yeah, that was definitely one of the more comedic things.
We
that
actually
I saw.
did see a lot of interesting motion sensing stuff. Like there was a soft kinetic company who had what looked like one-for-one motion with their camera that looked a lot like a Kinect. But you could be as close as like 15 centimeters, I think they said, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, you could. I actually got to saw it was on display. You could get super close, and it would read like your fingertips and all that good stuff. They also talked something that was interesting. They talked about building. They want to start building this technology like into TVs.
Okay.
So like motion is just like a thing that's standard packing
Right.
thing for like navigating menus and all.
Which
that sort of
we're
thing.
probably widely expecting for the next Xbox as well.
Nudge,
maybe.
nudge.
I don't
Wink, wink.
We also saw some early technology from this Swedish company called Senseg.
Okay.
This would running up to CES. We just get this torrent after torrent of press releases for come see us at CES, and there's a lot of really dreadful stuff in here. But I kind of picked this one out, going maybe this might be interesting. Of a company that's trying to develop haptic feedback for tablets.
Oh, right.
If you're not familiar with what the word haptic means, it's basically just touch feedback. And trying to get touch feedback out of these glossy glass screens that are on every touchscreen interface that exists today. And immediately I started thinking, okay, maybe this might solve some of the problems with touchscreen gaming, because a lot of game developers still like to try and map, controller controls, button inputs onto the screen, which is great until your thumb starts to wander off of that upper right direction of your jump button. And then you aren't really controlling the game very well anymore. I was thinking if you could actually kind of start to feel the texture of that button, maybe this could start to solve some of those problems. Me thinking maybe 4 or 5 years down the road from this technology, because they're definitely not there yet.
Did you get to touch it?
I
did you
did
get the
to
feedback?
touch it. It's what it feels like now is the screen in places where the haptic feedback zones are active feel kind of sticky.
Okay.
Kind of like if you're rubbing your finger across the adhesive part of like Scotch tape, how it kind of sticks and drags. That's how it felt. But I mean, you could definitely feel like they showed this one demo where they have 4 different patches of like grass, like smooth tiles,
Sandpaper,
asphalt, and like corrugated cardboard, and you can definitely feel like on the asphalt you could definitely feel it felt pretty rough. The corrugated cardboard, it felt smooth in one direction and rough on that in the horizontal direction. The tiles, it felt smooth, but when you crossed, between the tile, the grout lines, you would feel the ridges there. I mean, the technology is still pretty primitive, but it's definitely a long way, but it shows a lot of promise for what can be done in the future.
Do you think they were targeting gaming companies with this, or did they have some other use in mind?
They were just developing the technology at this
Okay.
point. I mean, yes, they definitely saw potential in games.
Yeah.
They were also seeing a lot of potential in kind of hands-free operation of touchscreen devices, whether that meant that, you're going through your music playlist and you have a couple of favorites picked out. Those favorites would give you a haptic feedback thing, so you could feel it without having to see it. It's like, in their demo, you come across the Beatles, the White Album, and it's like, oh, okay, it feels kind of textury. I know that's one of my favorite albums. They're also looking to, bring touchscreen gaming and touchscreen interfaces to people who are sight impaired. We saw a game that was pretty much, it was a HotSpot hunt kind of game of,
Hotspot kind of game, huh?
dig up the treasure of the hotspot, dig up
different.
dig up Tom Magrino out in the desert.
Right. Thank you, by the way. I've been waiting for them to develop this technology just in case.
And Sean played that game with his eyes closed, and and dug up good old Tom Agrino.
And I thanked him profusely. Okay, so final thoughts on CES. You looking forward to going back next year, Tyler?
Definitely looking forward to going back next year. This year for technology seems kind of a transition year where
it was really down year.
A lot of companies are just trying to cram more tech into that we don't really need into platforms that are already pretty mature. We saw stuff like more apps and televisions and more dumb 3D stuff and
nothing really mind-blowing.
Kind of nudging the pushing things slightly forward with like mobile gaming and tablet gaming and stuff like that. And then other stuff like the Sensei stuff, which is too far off to really tell what the potential is, other than to look and go, that's pretty exciting to look at.
Oh, and one thing that I forgot to mention was there was that $1,000 HDMI cable.
$1,000 per meter.
Per meter, my bad. Per meter, you get like 0 latency.
There's something about DNA helix construction.
DNA helixing that's
and
going on.
To the naked eye, this means what to me?
Is it
one of those monster
gold
cable
plated
things where you just can't tell the difference? They just make this a great idea to make you.
It's just refreshing to see that somebody is putting the screws to Monster Cable to raise the game. It's like, look, Monster Cable, nobody wants to buy your $400 per meter HDMI cable when we have our $1,000 per meter HDMI cable.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Maxwell, how was your CES experience?
Well, this was my first CES experience.
Me too.
But what I tell a lot of people is that like we really had to hunt. We had to scour and search for the things that we did find for those video features we did put together.
Yeah, that's a good point. So on our CES page, ces.gamespot.com or something, we tried something new this year. It's kind of like I would call it video journalism. But we had to just basically scour those halls. And this there was like 3,000 some odd companies there, and just like literally 1 million acres of technology.
I remember your map you handed me, Magrino. You had like all these circles and arrows pointing to like, hey, there might be something interesting here. I just had to pass it by.
I didn't have time. I was just writing stuff down.
You're just running and writing.
Just go. Yeah.
I mean, that is
It's
sort
a
of
treasure
business
hunt.
as usual for our coverage of CES. The biggest difference this year is that typically we're really hunting and scouring for game content at CES. And this year, mostly
there is no game content. Crap.
This year, mostly the game publishers weren't there, or the ones that were there were showing stuff that we'd seen lots of times before. So we said, okay, let's try and take a crack at covering tech products that relate to gamers, and so similar experience of having to really hunt and scour for stuff, but still slightly different from our coverage in the past. And,
it's definitely an exhausting show to cover. Just like 150,000 people all up in your business and literally rubbing their armpits all over you. It's awful.
But eager to know what everybody thinks of our coverage. Let us know.
Go ahead, write into hotspot.com. I don't know. What's our email? hotspot@gamespot.com. Right in. Let's move on. Congress got rid of SOPA. Not really. So over earlier this week, the outcry, the uproar surrounding the Stop Online Piracy Act that is currently being debated in Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Still in committee, still up for debate, still able to be changed and whatnot. But the committee chairman, Daryl Issa, I don't know.
I like Issa.
He officially confirmed that the bill would not be put forth to the House floor for a vote until they can reach a better bill or craft a better bill. So that's pretty good news for anyone who felt like this would break the internet. Though I would say, or I would caution, that this is not a definitive, this bill is dead kind of thing. So if you're out there and you want to, if it is of your personal opinion, unlike CBS Core, that SOPA is a bad thing, go ahead, contact your congressman. Or read the bill. I don't know. Do something. Get involved.
It sounded mostly like they were kind of waving the white flag of this bill. Not only is this bill poorly written and not very succinct in what it's succinct in what it's trying to accomplish, but it's very broad in the ways it's trying to accomplish it.
Right.
But also that the people of Congress didn't understand enough about what the impact was going to be for them to make a a proper decision on it.
Right. I mean, this is totally one of those bills that has substantial, huge amounts of lobbying dollars being thrown at it from companies like CBS and the Motion Picture Association of America and the Entertainment Software Association, Universal, NBC, ABC, whoever. But in the end, it's like anybody with an interest in technology or an interest in keeping the internet open and free, they're like, oh my God, this is the awful. This is the awful. So you have companies like Google, LinkedIn, Zynga, Facebook. They're all coming out against it. Google and Reddit and a lot of other places, Wikipedia, have shut down today. So hopefully that gives us a bump. But you know, if you're, I don't know how much I need to beat the horn here, because if you're here, you're probably against SOPA. So I don't know if I need to sell you on it. But also, other thing, I mean, a large portion of the game industry is against it as well. We've had in recent weeks people like Bungie come out against it, Epic, Mojang. We've also had a lot of like hemmers and hawers. Capcom and EA were like, don't ask us, please. But it doesn't sound like we're going to need their help. There is actually still another piece of legislation, PIPA, which is the Protect IP Act, which is on the Senate. It's a very similar bill to
SOPA.
SOPA, thank you, Maxwell McGee. It's very similar. I do not believe has been shelved yet, so there's still that. It doesn't sound like the two bills sound like they're working in tandem. Like they'll probably find a consensus if it's going to go forward. They'll probably find a consensus between the two to pass, because it has to pass between them both.
Is the Protect IP Act quite as dangerous as the Stop Online as SOPA?
Yes, it basically is. It still essentially equates to, if there is a website, a foreign website that has been accused of piracy, then these companies can obtain a court order to just shut it down without any kind of due process. There's like a 5-day window in which the accused can respond, but basically they can just block off Americans from accessing, say, the Pirate Bay or some other organization that takes a lot of flack for their pirating and legal peer-to-peer networking, whatever it is. But it's kind of one of these things where, yeah, it can hit the Pirate Bay, but it can also hit some other, say they want to shut down a website in Syria or Libya who is saying unpopular things. They can just level that website with a court order, and then they just shut it down. You can't, so there's a lot of concern over free speech, and
it's going to shut down businesses. It's going to, kill a lot of things. And the best facepalm moments have been like people pointing out like these politicians' own websites and how they would be shut down for violating the very things that SOPA covers.
There was
insane.
I think I'm trying to remember the exact politician, but the person who put forward SOPA, like his website itself had
it was copyrighted
background art that's like, oh, that's copyrighted material, and we're going to shut down your website now.
And the little guy's not going to have any recourse. I mean, that's the thing. I mean,
and
one of many things.
That's the argument that people like YouTube and Twitter have said, because it's like in their nascent days, they didn't have the big money, the big backing, and if somebody uploaded copyrighted material, they don't really have the resources to enter some protracted legal battle with a corporate heavyweight. So it would really stifle their ability to innovate and just create new, better products for us all. SOPA's balls.
SOPA's bad.
I mean, the good thing of with websites like Wikipedia and a lot of other sites in the internet, Craigslist, being effectively shut down today is that they in their place they have lots of effective links to allow people visiting those sites to educate themselves as to what this bill is about and allow people to form their own opinions about it and then contact their senator or congressperson about how they feel about it and how to make your voice heard, because this is not anything we get to vote on just yet. And maybe if who knows if it'll ever be a thing that we ever get to vote on directly. But at least you can make your opinion heard, and so please do that.
Please do that. Okay, we're going to move on. I was going to talk about some other news stories, but we're running low on time, so I'm just going to get to 10 years ago this week in reviews. You guys ready for this?
Nope.
I don't think you're going to get it. Just throwing it out there. 8.3. This game is a real-time strategy war simulation that places major emphasis on resource management. You assume the role of an army commander for one of 3 warring nations. The goal is to mine minerals, build up your army, construct bases, and overrun the enemy. In short, this game is a strategy buff's dream. Surprisingly, although the Game Boy Advance is nowhere near as powerful as a PC, this game compromises nothing compared with stalwart veterans like StarCraft or Command and Conquer.
What?
Jeez almighty. You said that, and I was like, okay, my mind's whirring with the possibilities. And then suddenly you said, I was like, oh, jeez.
Yeah. I just like the audacity of this reviewer. Just as good as StarCraft and Command and Conquer on the GBA.
I would argue that the game in question is a better game than StarCraft.
Oh, throwing down the gauntlet.
I mean, clearly we're not talking Advance Wars.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of.
Kemco, Kemco is the publisher developer. Nothing.
Yes, I've heard of Kemco.
Yeah. The game is Mech Platoon.
Mech Platoon.
I don't know.
Mech Platoon.
Tyler's apparently heard of this.
Is
Actually,
that part
no,
of
I
the
just
Mech
thought it was
Warrior
Advance
family
Wars,
of?
Yeah, Advance
which I
Wars.
think is a better game than StarCraft, but I'm not a big fan
No,
of
But it's also
FPSs.
turn-based.
Advance Wars is like my favorite DS game. I know it's not
Advance Wars is awesome.
on
but
the DS.
Yeah, I've never heard
fully,
of this
but-
game.
Yeah, so
I feel
if you're looking
terrible.
for one to go back to, Mech Platoon.
Terrible. Guilty.
We have a question. Paul from Australia asks, in previous generations, it seems valid to say that the console that comes out first is more popular and the one that comes out second is more powerful, i.e. PS2 sold more, but Xbox was more powerful, and same for the 360 and PS3. I cannot see any reason, if the Xbox 720 and PS4 were released, why this trend would be any different. I think it's safe to assume that Microsoft will release before Sony, so what sense would it make for Sony to release soon after? So, I want one thing about this, and it brings up an interesting point. One common misconception out there is that the Xbox 360 is selling more than the PlayStation 3. If you're looking at global worldwide sales, they're pretty much neck and neck, and the PS3 will definitely be overtaking the 360 in sales sometime soon. So that is the first misconception. But out of that, there is a good question in there, and it's kind of the idea of, is there any good releasing a console that's more powerful than your competitor, given that to succeed in this market, really, you need a multi-platform game?
I mean, there's definitely benefit to be had for power, especially with a more powerful console. If you build a platform with a longer lifespan. Now, granted, we're seeing that console capability doesn't necessarily detail the lifespan, so long as people keep generating creative content for these platforms. I mean, the Xbox 360 is a bit long in the tooth, but it's still a great platform with loads of great software coming out for it. I think it just comes down to what you can deliver when you release your platform. Is it better than what your competitor offers? And not necessarily just in sheer horsepower, but in features and games and everything that the platform has to offer. Because we're not just looking to these as gaming platforms anymore. They're
Right.
as they promised us 6 or 7 years ago. These are broad-ranging entertainment platforms now, and we expect a lot out of them.
Yeah, and actually, Microsoft, it was definitely beating the drum at CES that their goal is to have integrated devices, Xbox and Windows and mobile Windows Phone, all talking to each other. So it almost seems like it's no longer possible, and Sony to a certain degree was also talking about this with the Sony Entertainment Network. Like, it's no longer just the box, the console. It's like everything that's surrounding it as well.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's taking a page out of Apple's book of developing not just a platform, but like they use the term, the ecosystem.
Right.
Of hey, you like Sony movies? Well, you can download Sony movies to your Sony console and then watch them on your Sony handheld.
Yeah, so it's less about the individual device and more about the ecosystem. That makes sense to me.
I mean, to address the concept, there have been quite a few, kind of first consoles out there to the platform that didn't end up being most popular. But then I feel like continuing this discussion, I think might just be beating up Sega.
Because looking at you, Sega Saturn.
Because the Dreamcast was also the case
Dreamcast,
there.
yeah.
They were first out, and that was a fantastic platform, but it never really caught on.
Mm-hmm.
Although the Genesis was kind of more popular than the Super NES, wasn't
I
it?
don't
It's
remember
like
the
a controversial opinion.
Yeah.
I was a Genesis kid growing up.
I was.
So
A
I would
Genesis
agree
kid
with you.
too.
Yeah, I mean, I also had a Genesis, and though I had lots of friends I like to visit that had Super NESs because those games were great too.
All right, we're going to move on. Welly from Indonesia asks, I am thinking of buying a new gaming laptop, specifically the Asus G74SX BBK or the Cigar style Note NP8150.
Oh yeah, those.
Right.
Go with the
Anyway,
cigar
we're
style.
going to continue. Both costing me approximately $1,200 and both featuring Intel i7s and NVIDIA GTX 560s.
Ooh.
But recently, there has been talk amongst the gaming world that a new generation of consoles is going to be announced at the next E3. Therefore, I am wondering if these laptops will be able to run the next generation of consoles, at least on medium setting. Also, would you kindly suggest to me some other gaming laptop alternatives for the same price?
I'm not even sure I understand the console bit because he's saying, are they going to be able? He said, are they going to be able to run the next generation consoles? And PCs don't run consoles.
Well, he wants to know if these PCs can run the games that are going to be on the Xbox. 720.
It's a $1,200 laptop.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, it's already going to have better hardware than what current consoles have, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But who's to say?
Right.
I mean, at the beginning of a console's life, the software is never taking advantage of everything that the hardware inside of it has to offer. But I can at least say that I have an Asus gaming laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And before I stepped on it, it was a fine machine.
Yeah.
That I was really, really happy with. I don't know anything about the other laptop, and I don't know the specifications of these laptops, but I can at least recommend the Asus brand just because I continually buy Asus brand stuff. And I always have really great results.
The point I want to make is that, first of all, do not expect the Xbox or PS3 at E3. Sony has already said that the PlayStation 4 will not be at E3, and it just does not make any sense whatsoever for Microsoft to have the next Xbox 720. Maybe a Kinect 2, but certainly not an Xbox 720. That also said, it's like these things aren't announced, so we don't actually know what they're going to look like or how powerful they are. But I think it's safe to say that a $1,200 laptop will get you everything you need in the gaming spectrum, at least for a good long while. I don't know if you guys have any other laptop recommendations for this guy, or nothing.
Get that Razer thing.
Get that Razer thing
for $5 zillion.
Yeah, the Razer laptop is a pretty high dollar value investment. I think they were saying it's available now or soon for $2,700. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
What I was seeing is what they're calling now Ultrabooks, which are kind of like the PC equivalent of the MacBook Airs. These fairly powerful, super slim and light, laptops make pretty competent gaming laptops in their own right.
The the Spectre, HP Spectre, I think is one. There were several that were shown off at CES for the first time. But yeah, the Ultrabooks, we're getting really super powerful laptops these days.
We've gotten to a point where you can get a pretty decently priced laptop that's going to run modern games pretty well.
Yeah. Actually,
there's no reason anymore that you have to go out and buy, spend $3,500 on you could if you wanted to get something really fancy from, Alienware or whatever. But, now, like I said, that great Asus laptop is just fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like the biggest hurdle you'd run across with gaming on those is that, it seems like a lot of those Ultrabooks are running fairly, in the interest of being fast and light, are running fairly small solid state drives. So you might not have the biggest amount of storage, and you'll definitely be getting your games off of Steam because most of these computers are also dropping their optical drives.
Right.
So getting some kind of digital way of getting at your games, but that's pretty easy these days.
Well, and as quickly as like the video, like the graphics hardware, we go through like generations so quickly with graphics hardware, there's no shame anymore in getting something that's like considered, last gen, aka 6 months ago. If you get something that was medium range 6 months ago, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Now. That may not have been the case in many years past, but now it's a much more slower progress ahead than it used to be.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break, and then Brendan and I will be back talking with Yoshinori Ono about Street Fighter. So we're going to run that right now. All right, we are back. I have with me Yoshinori Ono, producer on Street Fighter X Cross Tekken. Excuse me, not X Tekken. It's so tempting to say X Tekken. You, before I kind of introduce who you are, I want to make sure everybody else is in here. So, Dan Pantuminchai.
Dan P is okay. P is okay.
Something like that.
But
Say
you
it
got
for him so I haven't
pronunciation.
completely mangled it. Dan P.
Yeah.
Dan P.
It's all good.
He'll be serving as our wonderful translator today. And then we have our very own Brendan Sinclair, fighting game aficionado, etc., etc.
I just wanted to be in the room.
Right. It's a good room. It's a good room to be in. So, Anna-san, you're part of the Street Fighter franchise. What's your history with Street Fighter?
So yeah, I joined Capcom, 18 or 19 years ago actually.
Wow.
And my first project, when I first joined, they were making Street Fighter 2, Super Turbo, things like that. So it was a really good time to join the company, really. So I was involved with a lot of the fighting games from the very beginning, and I really count my blessings that I was able to, continue working on fighting games all, through these almost 20 years now, and all the way up to now when we have this dream collaboration between Street Fighter and Tekken. Something we couldn't do with previous technology, but now, with new game systems and things like that, we've been able to make this dream come true.
Yeah, so we were kind of talking about in the elevator coming up here about, how it must be so weird working with Tekken characters. Was there an inclination to be like, oh, I'm totally gonna like gimp this certain Tekken character or make him not as good as some of your own guys or anything like that?
So yeah, I mean, when we were first starting off this project, it was nothing more than a pipe dream, really. We never thought that we could really get these two franchises together. However, when it finally did come to fruition, it wasn't like I was nervous I was just really happy that we could finally move forward with this project. So, I had to go look at the Tekken roster, and I saw the characters that they had, and characters that I really love actually. So, I actually really like the kind of evil Tekken characters who aren't so good, like Kazuya or like Nina. So my first reaction wasn't, oh, I'm gonna make these guys weak. It was like, I like this character, so I definitely want him or her to be in the game. And especially for Nina, I think she's really hot, so I was gonna, having her in the game was something really that I really wanted to make happen.
Nice. I'm glad you found those. Normally we have Sean McInnes to do that, but stub it in.
Was there anyone in the game on the Tekken roster that you weren't a fan of, but you knew you had to include there? It's just kind of, it has to be in there for Tekken.
Sorry, so yeah, this is before the game launches, so I can't really say anything like that. But
it's fair.
Out of all the producers in the world, I'm probably the one who gets the most number of FUs every day through Twitter and Facebook. So if I say something like that now, the fans are just gonna get all riled up. So yeah, I'll just we'll ask me later.
We won't ask you to bag on any particular character. But it must have been weird, kind of trying to get. Because I'd imagine the way you balance Street Fighter and the way Tekken is balanced, they're completely different. So how did you go about just like melding those two or figuring out like a cohesive way to glue them together?
So yeah, this is a question I get a lot, about how we managed to meld these two completely different franchises together. Mm-hmm. But one thing that was really great about this project was that when we were working with Namco Bandai, they were really open to our ideas about how we wanted to utilize their characters. So there was never any point in the development process where they were like, oh, you shouldn't do this with this character, or we want you to do this kind of thing. It was a really free environment where, basically we had free creative control over how we wanted to put the characters into the game. And we intend to do the same thing whenever Namco comes out with their Tekken Cross Street Fighter. Who knows when that's coming out, but yeah, it was just a really great work environment. So when we were looking at the characters and trying to figure out how to put them into the game, it was more like, okay, we've got this great, character here from the Tekken universe. How can we make them match, the Street Fighter game system or atmosphere while still keeping, their Tekken, characteristics and flavor? So that was a really, it was challenging, but not as as tough as a lot of people thought it was. And definitely it was a really fun part of making the game.
So what kind of things did you have to do to find that flavor? Or like, did you just closely scrutinize what each of the moves were, or did you take like a look at the ethos behind what is Tekken and what is Street Fighter, or how did you capture that?
So I mean, the first thing was just to play the hell out of the game. So we really hunkered down. We, of course, them being kind of rivals in the fighting game genre, we have played Tekken games before, but once we realized that we were going to make this game for real, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, we went out and we got all the copies of Tekken that we could, and we just sat down, we played through it as much as we could. Of course, we called up Namco Bandai. We were like, hey guys, do you have development sheets or just any kind of character information that you use when you were making the game? And they sent us the official guidebook to the game, which we were like, wait, is this really all you have? Yeah, it's like, wait, you guys didn't even write this. And they were like, oh yeah, we got so much stuff, we're not sure what's really good, so can you guys just read this? So yeah, in the end we just ended up reading the guidebook, but it really helped. So yeah, there's like a funny story that happened between the two devs teams. So if you guys are familiar with Street Fighter, when characters get hit by certain like fire attacks, like Yoga Fire, the character will actually look like they're getting burned.
Right.
Or if they get shocked by Blanca's, electric attack, you can actually see them like as an X-ray. You can see like their bones. So when we had to do this for the Tekken characters, we were like, okay, well, we don't know really what does his bones look like when he's getting shocked? So we called up Namco Bandai. We're like, hey guys, what does Kazuya's bones look like? And they were like, bones?
What?
And they ended up sending us the wire frames of each character. And they were like, oh, is this the bones you were talking about? We're like, no, not this. When he gets shocked by electricity, like, what does he look like?
We need concept artists.
Right.
Not your animators.
But yeah, that was just a really, interesting way, because they had never thought about that in their game before, so we could see how really different the games were.
Yeah, so you've been working on Street Fighter for a while now, and you've been guiding like what's good with fighting games, what's bad with fighting games. Is there anything now that you're pretty far into it now? Is there anything or any decisions you made back then, back way when for whenever, where you're like, oh, I can't believe I made that decision because now it's it's really handcuffing me, or I wish I could have that one back so that fighting games could take this path instead of that path?
Well, when you say regrets, it's actually something that, of course, when you make a fighting game or any kind of game, basically you're kind of putting yourself out there. This is, my work. Please, everyone try and play it and have a good time. But especially for fighting games, what we're doing is we're actually making the tools that players are the ones who decide how they use them. So, we give them, the hammers and the chisels for them to make their own gameplay, strategies and things like that. So, before I would have regrets about, oh, maybe I should have made, it easier for them to use this particular tool. But it's not really like regret in the fact that, I regret making this character this way, something like that.
So what will you do if a year from now on the competitive fighting scene, the tools that you gave people in the form of the Tekken characters are all the high-level players use?
So actually related to this, I had another part of that answer, which is semi-related. He was saying that with technology nowadays, we're able to kind of patch, do balance patches and things like that, which makes it a lot easier. In case we hear from the fans that, oh, this character should be this way, we can hear the feedback and then finally, make adjustments. Before we couldn't do that. If a character was too good or too weak, sorry, but you were stuck with that for 10 years. But nowadays, we can patch things, so we're actively listening to the users. But on the flip side now, we also hear a lot of, negative comments from the users as well, like, "Oh, my character sucks, so can't you patch them to make them stronger?" Things like that.
You gotta make sure it's right.
Right. So
right.
rather than regret, it's more like hardship. I would look at it as.
So if Tekken dominates, we should expect a balance patch.
Now, yeah. まあ鉄拳キャラが強いだったらまあバランスパッチが。Yes. Of course.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I asked that because like as kind of you were showing us the game earlier, you were talking about how like Pandora and Gems, it's been very controversial. How do you respond to like all this like, oh, I can't believe you're breaking the game with Gems, or this Pandora mode is just weird and doesn't do anything for us? What do you guys say to that?
Especially for this title in particular, we think that hands-on play is something really important. We've always had this game at various events and things since early in the development cycle, but we really think that players just need more time to get their hands on the game. They kind of really understand what the system mechanics are about. So that is one thing that we kind of regret about when we announced the gem system and Pandora mode, is that we just didn't give players enough information for them to really understand our rationale and our reasoning behind why we made the system the way it is. So I hope that viewers and fans will watch podcasts like this at GameSpot and CNET, and try and understand the reasoning as to why we made the gem system this way or Pandora mode this way. So as well as try and get their hands on the game as much as they can.
Has this, like, especially either of these systems, how much iteration have they gone through? Like, did you have an idea of what it would look like, and then as it started playing out, you're like, oh, this isn't working, and then let's try it again? Or did it pretty much play out exactly as you thought it would from the beginning?
So yeah, for Street Fighter 4, that was a title that we went through a lot of different iterations, going left and right, and that one took a really long time because we were trying to get all the we hadn't made a fighting game in a really long time, basically, so we were trying to get people together to do that kind of thing. So that was a really topsy-turvy kind of development process, which took a long time. But for Street Fighter Cross Tekken, it was actually really smooth because we had the Street Fighter 4 team, which basically got cut in half, and and then half of them were assigned to do Street Fighter Cross Tekken. So we had that base already, who knew how to make the fighting games, and we had that clear vision already. In addition, we were able to call up Namco Bandai at any time and just ask for advice on what we should do with the game engine and things like that. So I know out of the almost 20 years that I've been working at Capcom, this has got to be one of the smoothest titles that I've actually produced since my time here.
Did the other half of the Street Fighter 4 team go to work on Marvel Capcom 3?
AE をやってました。
The other half did Street Fighter for AE.
マーベルは、ストリートファイター4を作った終わった後にもう一個新しくチームを作ったチームなので。
Yeah, Marvel was a separate team, that came after Street Fighter. So, yeah.
So, when you guys are looking ahead with the Street Fighter franchise, there's, like, piracy is a big deal right now, like trying to make sure that you're making money off of these games, essentially. Have you thought at all about how Street Fighter could take on a different kind of business model, be it like a downloadable release only, or some free-to-play business model? Or have you just thought about ways in which you can change up the gameplay at all to kind of get away from the $60 boxed model for the game?
So yeah, this is actually a really big topic that I've been thinking about for a long time, ever since I started making Super Street Fighter 4. Just as a basic market principle, the more expensive your game is, the less people are gonna buy it, because the barrier to entry is just higher. So what we did for Street Fighter 4 AE was I tried to lower the price as much as we could so that we could get a lot of people to come and enjoy it. So I've always thought about what we could do with kind of different business models and things like that. And one thing that I was thinking about was trying to change to a more service-oriented business model where we're not like selling product necessarily, but I always say that fighting games are like tools that we provide for people to use. So like maybe we could provide the tools for free, but then when people come to tournaments or things like that, then you can charge some entry fee or something like that. It's just these kind of different ways that we can move from this retail-based business model to something more perhaps service oriented. Yeah, but I don't have a clear answer to how that would happen. It might take another few years for me to come up with something, but it's definitely something that I've been thinking about for a while now.
Speaking of business models, one that Capcom seems kind of keen on the last few years has been to release a game and then release an enhanced version of it 6 months, a year down the road. Super Street Fighter 4, AE, Ultimate Marvel Capcom 3. Can we expect to see an enhanced version of Street Fighter Cross Tekken?
Yeah, I mean, for as long as I'm still breathing and living, I don't think we're not gonna make a Super Street Fighter Cross Tekken. But like I mentioned before, with changing the business model, what we did for AEs was we released it very cheaply, and then people who had Super Street Fighter 4 could update to Street Fighter 4 AE, by not, and they didn't have to pay as much as like a full disc download. So if we were gonna do anything for Street Fighter Cross Tekken, it would also be done like that. So it wouldn't be a new disc. You would only need to buy the disc once, and then any kind of updates we do would be like a download DLC kind of deal.
I gotta ask. So have you thought about motion technology for these games?
じゃあ
キネクトこんなに
はい、キネクトとか、Wii とか。
I mean, people want to do this and have things happen.
So, I'm kind of a perverted guy. So whenever I hear about, motion controls, I always think of, what kind of perverted things can we do with motion controls? So that's the first thing I think. But yeah, as just, new ways for players to input, their motions and their commands into a game. I think motion controls are a really interesting thing. So yeah, for Wii, the Wiimotes or the Move controllers or Kinect, it's a really interesting way that I think players can connect to video games that we couldn't do before. And I often hear from fans like, "Oh, why don't you put motion controls in the Street Fighter?" But I'm an old guy, so if I was trying to control Ryu in like a Street Fighter game with motion controls, I'd be tired, from the very beginning of round one. So I've been, thinking about basically, other new games that maybe we could make, that have motion controls. I'm often on the plane rides, thinking of things, scribbling ideas in my notebook, and I hope that I can bring these newer games that utilize some kind of motion control. If I can bring those to fruition in the near future, that would be ideal.
Cool. Sounds good to us. So this game is out March 6th. I got that right? Have you seen Tekken Cross Street Fighter at all? Is it cool?
So about Tekken Cross Street Fighter, that'll probably take 6 years at least to come out. In the 6 years while we're all waiting for that, we'd like you guys to play Street Fighter Cross Tekken. We put in a lot of effort and work into the game. We'll be announcing this year is the 25th anniversary of Street Fighter actually. So we got a lot of big plans, events in the works, which we'll be announcing at a later time. But yeah, for Tekken Cross Street Fighter, they haven't even made their design documents yet. So that game, we'll probably put out, we might put out Street Fighter 5 before, they even get done with that one. That'll take a while.
Do you guys wish that they had gone first? Like, is there any pressure, like, here's our game, but they're going to be doing kind of the same thing? Like, do you wish you could have gone second?
Yeah, not really. Because we basically made the game in cooperation with them. We were basically borrowing their characters and using them freely in the game engine that we've created. So, yeah, it's not really like, I don't really think that anything would have changed if they had made their version first. But, as a creator of the game, I think, it's fine that we made ours first.
Have you given any thought to future crossover fighting franchise games?
将来の。
まあその
Yeah, this is another, comment I always hear from fans. And, now that we've done Street Fighter Cross Tekken, why don't we do Street Fighter Cross Mortal Kombat, right? So, but, whenever we do events with the Mortal Kombat guys, sometimes their development people are there and, we're at the same event. So I always try to stay away from them so that, someone doesn't, snap a picture of us talking and be like, oh, those guys are secretly having a meeting to make, the next crossover. So, I try to keep my distance, but yeah.
You gotta keep those meetings secret.
Yeah, but yeah. So I think it's not the right time yet to do anything like that. So yeah, I mean, we're concentrating on Street Fighter Cross Tekken now.
If I can make a suggestion, I want to see a Street Fighter Cross Fighters History sold as just a downloadable skin pack for Street Fighter.
あ
ファイターズヒストリーという曲ゲームがあるんですよ。それのまあダウンロード衣装だけでも嬉しいですよ。
あでもそうすると当時の事情を知ってる人がすごく怒ってくると思いますと。
Yeah, but then maybe the original, Fighters History's fans might get,
いや
mad.
ファンで
All
は
of
なく
those
て
fighter history fans out there.
裁判になったのよ。そうもうこれは彼はすごく意地悪な質問で、ファイターズヒストリーとストリートファイターは一回こうぶつかったのね。
Oh, okay, right. They had a legal dispute or something. So yeah, maybe in the legal area it wouldn't be very good.
多分僕が最後の作品だったらやるかもしれないです。
If it was my last game before, I quit, maybe I would do it.
でもうちょっと僕はやっぱカプコンでゲーム作りたいので、もう少しそれは待ってく
Yeah,
れと。
but I want to keep working at Capcom, so we'll put that one on the back burner for now.
That's fair. That's fair. So, any friendly wager with Harada-san on which game sells more?
結構
It's actually something I've never really talked to him about. Maybe you think that we always have these battles at different events, but actually, I often have dinner with him, near at a place near our office. But whenever I'm with him, we're actually talking about really serious topics like how can we support the community? How can we make fighting games more accessible to a larger audience? So. I'm I'm kind of a jokester, but he's like a really serious guy. So when we get together, usually we're up until, the early morning, writing, different ideas on how we can really support the community and, make fighting games a bigger thing. So, we're always discussing, maybe, so if we want to do this, we should, make this game this way, things like that. So yeah, we've never really wagered or done anything about our games before.
Yet, at least. All right. We appreciate you having coming on the show, Ono-san. We look forward to the game. It's coming out March 6th. Dan, P,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Brendan, thanks for coming on. And now we'll be on with the rest of the show. And we're back. Hey, guys. So we are going to finish up the show with Pop Quiz HotSpot. I like this bit. Chloe has a bit of audio trivia for this for us. Are you guys ready for this?
Is this where we need to put our headphones on?
I'm pumped.
Oh,
Coming in over the speakers, baby.
Whoa.
Here we go.
Okay.
That was the title screen. This is the battle music. PlayStation era. The answer is Legend of Dragoon.
Oh.
Legend of Dragoon. Chloe, you are our winner. Let me know what you want. I don't know what you... just send me something and I'll send it to you. And some useless junk. I have no game to give her this week. There's nothing coming out. So
You want her to send you something
No,
so that you can
not
send it back?
Send me your address and what game you want for what platform. Make it recent because I can't dig up things that are from the NES era. That's
she can have my collection of expired and invalid CES 2012 badges.
Okay, we'll send you Tyler's signed invalid CES badge.
Signed.
Along with the game.
Along with the game. So yeah, that's our trivia segment. If you have a trivia question for us, NES era or beyond, you can make it audio version, gaming related riddle, something clever. Anything will work. Write in hotspot at gamespot.com, and if our illustrious panel is stumped, you win a free game. Housekeeping. To our 2 listeners in Peru, you 2 should totally meet up. Send me your email addresses, and I'll send them to each other. It'll be fun.
And then when you do meet up, send us a picture of you high-fiving.
Yes, high fives. All right. I think that does it for this week. Hey, do you guys like podcasts? Because the GameSpot UK podcast and the OzSpot are also available I don't know if they're good. Maybe. I haven't listened in a while, but I'm sure, Laura and Guy Kaka are doing quite the job.
They have accents.
Probably.
But not like that one.
What?
That whatever that was. It's not. That's not the accent they have.
No, it's not. Kevin Van Orn, thank you for stopping by.
It's always my pleasure.
Maxwell McGee.
Thank you for having me.
Tyler Weingartner.
Lovely to be here.
Am I saying it?
Weingartner?
Weingartner.
Say it with me.
No, there's no D.
Weingartner.
It's not like Weingartner.
That does it for me. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. HotSpot out!